In week 1, we worked on defining biblical hospitality, and for some, we refined our definition to focus on not just fellow believers, but also those not known to us. I think all of us should kind of start instituting an always rule where we always introduce ourselves to our neighbor or someone we don't know when we see them in our neighborhood. Never give yourself an out. Just always have that always rule. If you see someone, even if you're like, I don't want to, still go do it. It might be because they need you, you don't need them. So have an always rule. In week 2, we covered some ways to demonstrate hospitality. The possibilities are limitless because God is limitless. I'm truly in awe of the freedoms He offers us. Okay? That's what. That's how I feel. Yeah. Preach. If you all have been on mission trips outside of the country, you've really been exposed to a lot of the freedoms we take for granted. We can walk down our street proclaiming the name of Jesus, carrying 7 Bibles, and not get arrested or even risk death. Our freedoms are part of what God's purpose and plan that He has for each of us, and we need to honor Him by using the freedoms He's blessed us with. In week 3, we discussed answering the call and some of the challenges we might face. The challenges were real and different for each of us, and we need to recognize the areas where we need to change our attitudes and our have-tos to get-tos. So I've said each week, this is kind of the foundation of the study, the simplest way to change the world. You don't have to have it. It is a super, super easy read. They also, I don't know if they still have it, but the Rosario Butterfield book, The Gospel Comes with a House Key. I don't know, has anyone in this room, did anybody pick it up? Great. It's a pretty intense read. So I sort of feel like this one's your appetizer and that one's going to be the meal. And it's a tough meal to eat because she gets real serious in that book real fast. She's very intellectual. It really gets you thinking. So if you all get a chance, if it's not in our resource center, you can order it online. So does anyone have anything they want to share? Anything? Okay. So let's get started then. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, give us eyes to see the deepest needs of people. Give us hearts full of love for our neighbors as well as the strangers we meet. Lord, break our hearts for what breaks yours. Help us to understand what it means to love others and love others as ourselves. Teach us to care in a way that strengthens those who are sick. Let us be a healing balm to those who are weak, lonely, and weary by offering our kindness to them. May we remember to listen, to smile, to offer a helping hand each time an opportunity presents itself. Give us hearts of courage that we will be brave enough to risk loving our enemy. Help us to be welcoming and inclusive to all who come to our door. Lord, we love you and thank you for allowing us to gather and worship you. Thank you for loving us and choosing us. In your name I pray, amen. So this week is being intentional, implementing a plan, and teamwork. I had a whole lesson planned, and then at the end of Thursday, God was like, nope, that's trash. And so that all got chucked. Everything felt really right up until that moment, and apparently He changed the focus of the plan because maybe someone in this room needed something different. Maybe it was me. Maybe I needed something different. So I went back through and just started over. And so we're being intentional and implementing a plan and teamwork. So we're going to start by reading a couple passages from the book of Acts. We're going to start in Acts 2. We're going to start in verse 42. So 2:42. I'm going to start reading. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe in the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So this shows the converts celebrating their new life in Christ by listening to the apostles' teachings. They practiced community by sharing meals, they worshiped God, and they cared for each other's needs. Now we're going to jump over to Acts 4, and we're going to read 32 through 37. So I think for most of us, it's flipping the page. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and God's grace was so powerfully at work in them all. There were no needy persons among them. For from time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, sold a field he owned and brought the money and put it at the apostles' feet. So these early Christians were interacting with each other with a gracious, Christ-like compassion. Their behavior was a result of the Spirit's outpouring. This passage is a description, not a prescription, so we have to be careful when we read that there's nothing wrong with living in a communal way, but it's not telling us to live that way. I think most of us have a higher standard of living than these people had, but we would really find it hard to match their level of generosity. If we're filled with the Spirit of Christ, we ought to respond to people's needs with his love. Even though we do not practice communal living, we are still members of one community, the fellowship of believers. We have everything in common. So we make and offer excuses for why we avoid practicing biblical hospitality. Last week we said lazy, good intentions, but poor follow through. Neighbors are far away. So what else? What are some other excuses? Time. Selfishness. I can relate. Anything else? Safety. Yeah, I would agree, because you really have to use discretion. I think some people even use something as simple as, I can't cook, because, there are people that are in this room that can't cook. Costco has pre-made heat and eat meals. So there's your excuse. It's gone. Get a Stouffer's lasagna, put it in your freezer. Those things aren't terrible. So just go ahead and have something on hand, knowing that God's going to bring somebody in your life. I think another excuse people have is you have young children. Including your children in hospitality allows them to grow up thinking biblical hospitality is normal. They think the village is just the way Christians do life. The gospel frees you from your kids' occasional tantrum and makes it okay for them to be imperfect in front of others. If you're completely on edge over a child that has a meltdown or spills something, your invited guest will see that and take note. We have to be careful. We're not sending the message that perfection is what we find acceptable in others. That tantrum is the exact illustration you want. We're human. We're sinful. We want our way. We want it now. Not that you should wish a tantrum on anyone, but it really is a beautiful example of grace and mercy on display. Maybe God wants you to model loving correction and discipline to your guest. God can use that 3-year-old hitting phase for more than just female pattern baldness. You just have to let him use it for more. So Daniel and I we've traveled to the Dominican Republic numerous times on mission trips. I think I probably experienced the closest thing to biblical hospitality I've ever experienced. I went down to the river to cool off because apparently Daniel and I we're not called to serve anywhere where it's below 115 degrees. As I walked back, I heard a cry, and I knew it was like a new baby cry because they just have that distinct sound. I walked upon this tiny little metal home. It was a dirt floor, and it was corrugated metal siding and a roof. I saw a woman, and she was just motioning for me, and there was like that second where I was like, why is she motioning for me? Like, I'm absolutely no one to her. And I thought she wanted me to see her baby, so I was walking over there, and she wanted me to see her home and to sit with her. I could not have been more of an outsider. She did not pause to welcome me in. I had nothing to offer. I had on wet shorts and a wet t-shirt. I had nothing in my hands, and even though I'd been in the water, I'd been working in concrete, so I was like super filthy. She still welcomed me into her home. Inside her home was probably 27 degrees hotter than on the outside because it's just like a little metal hut. And when I walked in, I noticed that her other son was laying on the floor. I found out he was 15 years old, and he was completely naked, but he was spotless. He was so beautiful. He had cerebral palsy. She scooped him up and held him. She was probably even smaller than me, so imagine me holding a 15-year-old boy. I mean, she just picked him up and she held him, and she adjusted him to make sure that I could see his face. Sorry. And I'll just never forget like how beautiful he was. She wanted me to not see her baby. She wanted me to see her son. Sorry. Her life wasn't filled with stuff, things, or distractions. Her life was filled with life. She invited me in to share her life. She didn't have a couch. She didn't have flooring. She had no running water, and we didn't even speak a common language. She just had a welcoming heart. We need to have that type of welcoming posture. Our excuses hinder us from embracing God's purpose for hospitality. We need to remind ourselves of God's truth to counter these excuses. God has it all figured out. Whatever our excuses, they're ours. We made them up with our own understanding, and frankly, we believe most of them. You tell yourself something often enough, you start to believe it. God welcoming humanity into his love and kingdom family, then urging those welcomed to do their part to welcome others. This is our job. God never wastes anyone's time. If you are willing, he always leads you towards a purpose. Invite people in. People will not think your house is a disaster. It's not how your house looks. Collections can be connectors. Clutter can be a conduit. It's people over possessions. Most people won't even think you're weird for inviting them over, but nevertheless, who cares if they think you're weird? Your approval is secured in Christ. Nothing your neighbor thinks about you can ever change the way God thinks about you. So I grew up at Ashland Avenue Baptist Church. There was a lady that went to church there, and she lived in the same apartment complex as my parents when my sister and I were babies. I still hear stories about her not having any living room furniture, but what she did have was the old webbing lawn chairs. Do you all know those webbing that fold up? As her living room furniture. She was one of the most welcoming, fun-loving people around. It endeared people to her. She didn't care at all that it was not the norm. I can't think of anyone that's ever said, I can't wait to go to their house and see what kind of sofa they have. Not one person left lacking. No one left. She had everything she needed, and she just invited people in. So don't let perfection become the enemy of good enough. So I want you all to turn to Ecclesiastes. That's my favorite book in the Bible. I've read it like a gazillion times. I love Ecclesiastes. I don't know what that says about me. It's pretty intense. We're going to turn to chapter 4. So Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls, and he has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. When I was 6 years old, my family had a terrible car accident. It was really devastating. We were all in the hospital for a really long time, and we were separated from each other. Eventually, we were reunited, and we were able to return to our home as a family. We were pretty banged up, but we all survived. We needed a new to us car because ours got totaled in our car accident. We got an orange Volkswagen Beetle with black interior. You kind of felt like you were riding inside of a jack-o'-lantern. It had a standard transmission, but here's the funny thing. My mom had never driven one, and my dad was unable to drive due to his injuries. Part of my mom's injuries required her mouth to be wired shut, which had its own set of challenges because she wasn't able to ask questions or speak clearly. My dad's leg was broken in 25 places, and he had a cast from his hip all the way down to the tip of his toes. So my mom would drive because my dad could not with his cast, but she didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So here's how this went. So my mom would operate the gas, the brake, the clutch, and the steering wheel. My dad sat in the passenger seat and was in control of the gear shift. I know, it was crazy. And so Daddy would listen to the engine and say, clutch, when my mom needed to press down on the clutch. And then he would say, gas, and my mom would do as he instructed. He knew how to do this. He had experience. He knew what certain sounds meant. He knew what it felt like when something was right and when something was wrong. He knew that terrible sound of not getting it right, but also that it was going to be okay. My mom did not doubt him or his knowledge. She trusted him. This is how we went everywhere. They needed each other. They alone could not have gotten to the destination. Each person had something the other person needed. Modern culture often idealizes self-reliance. As the poet John Donne said, no man is an island. Everyone has had help somewhere along the way. And the more we realize the value of sharing our work with others, the greater our achievements will be. So from that passage back in Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12, it recognized and advocated for teamwork with 4 reasons. So verse 9 focused on greater productivity. That should be on your all's handout. Right there. So again, the very first one, greater productivity. A person working solo rarely accomplishes as much as 2 people working together. A team expends far less effort to achieve the same results, and increased efficiency maximizes outcomes. In verse 10, it refers to access to immediate assistance. Again, access to immediate assistance. Sooner or later, everyone's going to stumble. Failing alone can be devastating. Working with partners creates a buffer against disaster. Mistakes happen less often, and when they do, your partners will be able to help you get back on track. From verse 11, human comfort. Again, human comfort. The world's a cold place. When biblical hospitality is hard, and it will be. It's going to be hard. Your partners will offer comfort. I think sometimes just even knowing, you don't even have to say anything, just that person's there for you, that can be a comfort, knowing that you have someone there for you. In verse 12, security. Security. Okay. I was like, these are my people. Every person that laughed at that, those are my people. It's a comedian. The world is dangerous, but there's safety in numbers. It's like what she said, you want to feel safe. Wolves tend to attack the solitary sheep, not the entire flock. It makes sense to journey through biblical hospitality in the company of others. So again, number 4 was security. So on all of your all's chairs, there was the handout, but there also was like the little card that has my address on top, and then the name and address at the bottom. I know we have some visitors here, so you all don't have to do this, because I know we have some people that are even from out of state, but what I want you all to do is put your name and your address on that sheet. I ran out of the purple one, so visualize this as purple. If you want to put your phone number, if you want to put your email address, you all can do that also. Yeah. Also, Social Security number, identity theft? No. Okay, now what I want you all to do is pass it to the person that's to the left. Again, visitors don't have to do this, but they can. If there's no one on the left, you have to use your little walking sticks. Yeah. Okay, so I think that everyone was like totally on board with not listening. Um, so I think everyone was like on board when it's like, okay, write your name down. I can follow those instructions. Great. But then when I was like, okay, pass it to the person that's next to you or whatever, everyone kind of like tightened up a bit. Like their body language was like, but I'm giving them my personal information and this feels uncomfortable. That's what I'm observing. And so this is your family. This is your church family. If you cannot feel comfortable with sharing in this room, how are we going to open our doors? The name on the card is one of your hospitality partners. Encourage them, spur them forward, ask questions. What are you doing? How did it go? Tell me more. How can I help? Send them a card, which, by the way, stamps are 50 cents now, which makes buying a book of stamps really easy mathematically. So, but again, send them a card. Do something so they know you're holding them accountable to what God has called each of us to do. You know those 12-month subscription clubs where it's like Cheese of the Month Club or 12 months of coffee? Imagine if each person in this room reached out to their hospitality partner each month for the next 12 months and encouraged them. Put this on your calendar to do it every single month. Then imagine if each of us intentionally started practicing biblical hospitality every single month, every person in this room. So, who else can we team up with in order to begin, or for a few, continue practicing a lifestyle of biblical hospitality? You now have a hospitality encourager, but you might also have your community group or a neighborhood group of friends where you all could do a block party or a neighbor night. Think of who you can partner with and plan. Be creative and get in your front yard and be seen. Let me tell you, it's weird doing stuff in your front yard. My husband and I, we moved our barbecue to the front yard, and it feels like you're wearing your bathing suit on the outside of your clothes because everyone sees you and you feel so awkward. But it makes people, they smell your food cooking, and it attracts people, but you're seen. Don't just keep stuff in the backyard behind your fence. Get in the front yard and be seen. The first thing to remember on this journey is the nature of God. He is sovereign, meaning he rules over all things. He orchestrates all things for his purpose. He rules over all things, and we need to consider the people as gifts that he's brought into our life, because they're not in our life just as a backdrop or as that supporting cast as we talked about in week 1. These people are there for a reason. We're prone to miss those people a lot of times, but every day you pass people who could be blessed through your hospitality. Don't miss opportunities because you're focused on those you know while not even seeing those who know not. We're not making converts, we're making disciples who make disciples. This is our mission. This is our investment. So I'm going to have you, we're keeping Old Testament. Turn to 1 Kings 17. So we're going to start in verse 7. So 1 Kings 17, 7 through 16. I'm going to start reading. Sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him. Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" As she was going to get it, he called, "And bring me, please, a piece of bread." "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she replied, "I do not have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. And I am gathering a few sticks to take home and to make a meal for myself and my son that we may eat it and die." Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said, but first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. Why didn't God just provide for Elijah directly? Would Elijah not have had to trust? I think that's a large part of it. So how do we think that it felt to have to ask the widow for help? I can't imagine what he was like. Of all the people, you want me to ask her? I mean, I can tell she's gathering sticks and she said this. I'm asking her to give of something she clearly doesn't have. And then, how do you think it made the widow felt when she was like, "I have nothing and you're asking me to give something when I don't have anything. I have so little." So it just must have been really difficult for both of them. And God chose this as a way of showing how he was stretching out to those outside of the boundaries of the Jewish people. Jesus refers to this moment in Luke 4:26. It would have been difficult for both of them to make sense of this moment, but they both grew to understand more about God and what he is like. Perhaps God will use you and refine you through the art of receiving as a form of teamwork. The art of receiving is about humbling yourself and asking for help or assistance. This might enable others to feel connected and useful. We need to learn and watch for ways to connect in this way. This requires us to be aware of our own needs. We will be vulnerable by asking and then humble as we receive. Collaborating can make biblical hospitality easier. So teamwork can alleviate the tension by inviting a mix of people. If you have like 8 fellow Buck Run members and like 1 lost person you invited over, they're going to feel like they're on an episode of Intervention. So y'all need to be real careful with that mix of people that you have. Know your hospitality roster and be ready to invite the right people at the right time. I'm going to need Candace and Seth in a different way and for different people than I'm probably going to need Rhonda and Gil Gilpin. I need both of these couples in my arsenal of people, but you need to have a roster. If you don't have a roster, you need to start one right now with some key utility players. Like, who are the people that you know that are bakers that really enjoy baking? Who are your key players for organizing? Your key players for loving discipline and correction? Your varsity players for dinners and game nights? This is another reason to belong to a community group. This is where you know your people and you know them well. They're your God squad. Let people know. Let people know you might need them. Let this be a discussion in your C group. Let them know how you might use your C team to become the A team. Include them in your biblical hospitality. So, has God drawn your heart to invest in particular people or places? I think for those of us that maybe have been on some mission trips or family lives far away, like part of your heart stays there. It's not like you're here and your mind, your heart, everything's here. If you've been to Romania, guess what? You left part of your heart in Romania. If you went to Haiti, you left it with those kids. If you went to the Dominican, they're there with those families. If you went to Texas to serve and clean up a year ago, guess what? You still remember every one of those people every single day. So I know for some people, it might be hard to imagine that because they've never really left their own zip code. They've always been here. But if that's the case, then A, you need to go on a mission trip. But also, I think it shows that other people, it shows you a way to connect with those other people that have those connections to far off places. Kentucky's where I grew up. It's not where I really thought I was going to be right now. I decided that the other places and the others that were going were doing something more missional. And I wanted that. Going equaled doing to me. The destination was where I thought I'd be able to serve the most. I don't even know what that means. We prayed and prayed and nothing. I truly, honestly, I felt really disappointed that we weren't going somewhere, that we weren't going to Colorado, that we weren't going to San Francisco. We weren't going anywhere. I wanted to be a part of that and that fertile soil. And then when I let go of what I thought it was supposed to be, everything just kind of started to fall into place and order here. I told Daniel I felt God had something for us to do here. Those far off places are part of our hearts, our knowledge, our prayers, our global community. But for now, until he moves us to go someplace else, he wants us to serve here. He wanted us here for this appointed time and this appointed place. He chose our home, our neighbors, and our jobs. He chose us to be where we are with each person being part of our life. Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove said in The Wisdom of Stability, the same restlessness that sends us searching for community also keeps us from settling down wherever we are. I needed to recognize that God wanted me to be a bigger part of a community here. For me, staying seemed scarier than going because it felt like I wasn't going to be doing anything. And frankly, it's probably because I haven't been doing much. Again, I convinced myself going equaled doing and staying just seemed kind of ordinary. Today sets the stage for tomorrow. Opportunities come when we make the most of seasons of preparation. Luke 10:2, pretty much everyone knows it. The harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. I need you all. We need each other. And delegation is hard. That's why you have to know your hospitality roster. But as often as we have the chance to let others lend a hand, we have an opportunity to create something much bigger than we could accomplish on our own. In Romans 8:28, again, a verse pretty much everyone knows, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. Meaning, all things work together for good, but not all things are good. Nevertheless, good can come out of bad. His plans can only be good because he is wholly good. So, I know I've talked about the grid. Has anyone added anything to their grid this past week? Okay.
Well, I had one of my grid people over.
Wonderful. That's perfect. Anyone else?
I added a person to my grid.
Excellent. So has anyone implemented anything maybe from the past few weeks?
I took a welcoming gift to a new neighbor.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Cookies, nose rings.
Okay. I do like cookies too, but okay.
Most people like, I
Yeah.
just got to know somebody like
Yeah.
they're new.
Okay. You can get to know me that way too. Yeah. Okay. So I think here's what we're going to do. It seems like a lot of people in the room, for some reason, are just stuck, and we're about ready to do something crazy. So, sorry, sweet baby Jennifer. We're going to all say Jesus' name 10 times, and I know that probably sounds weird, But I think that if we feel weird saying Jesus' name in a place of worship, how are we going to be able to say it on the streets where we live? So we're going to have to all get past this. And, all of us are going to have to start filling up this grid. And I see your all's faces right now, and I see eye rolls. But I want to blow the roof off this place. We're going to say Jesus' name 10 times. We're going to get past whatever this weird thing is where no one's doing anything. So ready? Okay, go. Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Okay, so we can do this. This is amazing. Like, this isn't so hard. It even became easier at the end. I felt people kind of got like a little rhythm. So maybe we need to do this in our brains before we extend an invitation. Use this as a reminder. It gets easier. But he's also the reason we're doing this. Yeah.
I can't say it was an immediate neighbor, but after your first class, I got word that my third ex-sister-in-law.
Okay, makes total sense. Yeah.
She had lost her best friend and her father, and that she was coming into town on her birthday.
Okay.
And so I had 2 other birthday cakes to make for other people, but I asked her to stop in.
Okay.
I made something quick. I went and bought some frozen cookies,
Yeah.
and we had great fellowship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it is. It's inconvenient, isn't it? Like, it's inconvenient. Right. And I think what happens is most of the time people end up getting almost more out of biblical hospitality than what they're giving. And at first you buy into that, oh, this feels inconvenient. I have to stop what I'm doing. I have 37 birthday cakes to make, and, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. But you actually stopped what you were doing, and you actually listened to the Holy Spirit saying, I need for you to minister to her. That's what it's all about. It's like you invited her into your imperfect life. That's perfect. That's great.
I don't know what the grid is, but because of this class, we had our kids all wanted to take music lessons. And Cyrus has a couple friends who said, I think he may be very well known, but I don't pay attention to anything like that. Like, if the person's nice, then you're in. I don't
Right.
care what else you've done. So we were supposed to drive across town for my kids to have 2 lessons, and in our family with 3 kids, like, that's just a family no. And I was like, you know what? I've been taking this class in hospitality. Like, y'all want to do it at our house? And we're a mess. Like, I'm an artist, and like, I literally take over the house sometimes. My kids do too, and it's been wonderful. And I've been able to invite, that family in and a couple more families. And evidently, this guy's like good.
Yeah.
He's in like 6 different instruments, and he was playing the other day, and I was like, I think this guy's like a professional musician in my house, and I love it.
Yeah.
Because of, what we talked about, and I was like, we can do this. I was like, Monday night, we gotta clean the bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. It's probably going to be funny because next week we're going to be like, does anybody know who James Taylor is? Yeah. That's great. No, like, it really is. I think it's just ripping off that Band-Aid and doing like that very first time where you're like, I'm going to have someone come stay with me. I'm going to.
Tuesday night, and the kids just went back to school. Super inconvenient, but it's really great.
It's also
Yeah.
a demonstration of how much Jody hates to come to the west side of town.
Yeah.
Even though we have that very nice bridge. I don't know.
No, that's great. I think all of these things show that it's like no one is saying this was easy and it felt really comfortable and it was real convenient. So I think that for those of us, yeah, Alice, go ahead. Okay. 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 Right. It is. And thank you for sharing that, Alice. I think you're right. I think sometimes it's just having your eyes open to just someone that God's placed right in front of you to ride their motorcycle right in front of you and be like, I'm going to go talk to them. They're kind of cool. And just looking at someone that's different from ourselves. And then if you see that person cross your path more than one time, that's probably for a reason. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree. So all of us now know that we need to go to the Ark. So she said, she works on their marketing team. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah. So, again, what we need to do is we need to build hospitality reminders into our lives, actual, tangible hospitality reminders. I'm someone that can be really out of sight, out of mind. I don't know if anyone else is that way. So what we have to do, again, have that always rule. So always don't give yourself an out. That's a tangible, actual hospitality, like, oh, there's a person I don't know. I need to go introduce myself to that neighbor. Put it on your calendar. I've mentioned the calendar before. We make note of our kids' soccer practice. We write down all the fall festivals we plan to attend. We make note of when UK plays. We need to write down hospitality reminders and make them as non-negotiable as our children's sports practices and music lessons. So another reminder is to use what we're already looking at as a guide. If people like a social media post, then use that as a clue to what others might be thinking, needing, or wanting. Not in a prideful way, but just use it as insight. Maybe people will respond to something like a meal prep post, and people are like, oh, that's really cool. Tell me more. Can you help me with meal prep? That could be a way to invite other people in. Use those common interests as a way to invite a variety of people into your home. People may not come to church, but they may come to a meal prep class at your house or a granola making class. And I laugh because Molly's never met a granola she likes. So I think that idea is up for grabs. If anyone wants to do it, she won't be doing that. But again, just look at social media and see the common interests that you might have with people that aren't currently involved in church, and invite them in through that avenue, whatever it might be. So also have a reminder that you've worked into your budget. Allot money towards hospitality. It doesn't have to be anything huge. I have a budget. My budget's tight. But I think all of us can squeak out a few extra dollars somewhere if we really looked at our budget. It can be something like a pack of Little Debbie's. And, maybe it's that coworker that she loves those oatmeal cream pies. So get them a pack of Little Debbie's. Put a little card on it. It doesn't have to be complicated, but just allot it in your budget for hospitality and then do something with that every time each month or however you all do your budget. So let's turn to Romans 12. We're going to do 12, 1 through 8. I'm going to start reading. Verse 1. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. And for by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another, having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith, if service, in our serving, the one who teaches in his teaching, the one who exhorts in his exhortation, the one who contributes in generosity, the one who leads with zeal, the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. So this passage reveals three big purposes of hospitality. Number one, the encouragement or the edification of the body. Encouragement or edification of the body. The building up of other believers. Encourage your new hospitality partner. You all have that on your little card. Number two, to make disciples. Others know what God says. Even if they don't believe, they're going to hold us accountable in most cases. They're even going to expect us to share the gospel. So if they're kind of already expecting it, then what we need to do is actually just do it and share it with them. Some may even respond to the gospel. So number three, evangelism. So it also in Colossians, even though it's kind of like a sister verse from Romans 12, 1 through 8, in Colossians 1, 27 through 28, to them God chose to make known how great among the Gentiles are the riches of the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope and glory. Him we proclaim, warning everyone and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone mature in Christ. We're so fast to share everything on Facebook, but do we use it as a faith book? If you knew something amazing, would you not share it? So many times people say on Facebook, will you make this so I can share it? Well, guess what? God did. We can share it. So how can we demonstrate these three things? By opening our homes. We really have to think about our homes, our tables, our yards, who we're inviting into those spaces. It goes without saying we all need to use common sense and discretion. We have to stop labeling other people's sins as big sins, and ours are something that are more palatable. It isn't, so we need to stop. How are our children, specifically teens, going to know to be friends with homosexuals if all we do is shield them? They may think their sin is greater than their own. How will our children know that skin color is meaningless if we don't diversify our own friend group? Do you have friends that do not breastfeed? Are you even open to formula feeders? Do you invite in vaccinators? Your children are astute. They will know what you agree with and do not agree with. Children are black and white in reasoning. If you invite someone in that's against your beliefs, you are modeling for others in your family biblical hospitality. And guess what? No one on this earth is 100% right. Grace and mercy. Our homes can be used for the edification of the body of Christ, to make disciples, and for evangelism. We just have to be willing to open the door. So think about how you can initiate a conversation with someone new this week. Do you do just something super simple, like you're in the McDonald's drive-thru, you ask the girl her name and maybe have that quick conversation, invite her to church? Ask the person at the grocery store if they can help you with your groceries and talk to them while you find your car. Act like you forgot where you parked. If the conversation's good, just wander around. Yeah. She might truly wander around. Don't overcomplicate this. I mean, you can literally just walk up to someone and start talking to him or her. You don't need an excuse, so just don't make one. Effort, creativity, intentionality, dying to self are all concepts that translate into practical actions of meeting those around us and inviting them into our homes and our lives. Guys, I don't want you all to be spoon-fed this class. I think you all need to really start digging in and figuring out how you can bring this into your own life. Engage those abstract critical thinking skills. Let's get creative. As adults, we make making friends really complicated. We can outdo anyone when it comes to a children's birthday party or Christmas gifts that we're getting. We have to really kind of think like a kid. So kids are like, notice me, look what I can do. Well, adults want the same thing because, again, social media. But use those as examples. Maybe if you're retired, you can set up a morning coffee stand outside of your house for all those parents that are walking their kids to school. Offer free donuts from your hospitality table. Bake muffins, buy Kroger donuts. If your neighborhood has a lot of people that walk, then maybe think of a way to connect with them. Do a popsicle cooler. Maybe connect over pop ice. Be creative. Go outside. Go out daily. Go out consistently. Your neighbors do not live inside your house. Meeting your neighbors may not always be easy, but it's possible. Once you get into the habit of identifying those you can invite into your world, you can move on to building rhythms for making hospitality a way of life. Maybe it's through ping pong. What a great way to connect with one person. Hospitality can be one person. Introverts unite. Ordinary people doing ordinary things with the expectation God will do extraordinary things. I'm an introvert. I force myself to be an extrovert, which is terribly exhausting when all I want to do is just blend in with the carpet. I'm pretty skeptical. I'm realistic. I need to figure out people's intentions before I proceed. I need to think things through and think about the risk. My limited knowledge is thinking through what I think this person is doing in my life. My brain's made of fudge, you all. I mean, really, I just think that's stupid that I would assume I know what his plan is and I'm going to be able to figure out why these people are in my life. So for some of us who prefer a hermitage, or groups make us break out in the flop sweats, hospitality doesn't have to be a group. It can be one-on-one. Daniel and I prefer a smaller, quieter group. We can focus our attention and the conversation. This is still hospitality. When it's one person, your talk can get at a greater depth much faster. Think of the VBS song, Deep and Wide. Everybody knows that song, right? I'm not singing it. So an introvert can go deeper while an extrovert can go wider due to the amount of people they may be in contact with. So this should be a strange land, yet we've done anything and everything to be comfortable with being comfortable with being comfortable. We live an air-conditioned life where everything is tightly controlled. Practicing hospitality means bringing our best and encouraging others with the goodness of God. Okay, so maybe some of us still have not done anything in regards to biblical hospitality. I mean, I do ask the question rhetorically, why not? We need to identify those reasons why we're not doing anything. I mean, surely over the last 21 days, you've ran into someone you didn't know. I mean, surely you have. So I think we have to also ask ourselves, am I someone that's a doer or am I just someone that's a hearer? I just sit here and hear the things that somebody says. So are you a doer or a hearer? We're entering the final stretch of this study. Let's work on identifying some reasons we've not started and get past some of those. Biblical hospitality requires more than donating money to a cause. There is no GoFundMe for practicing and implementing biblical hospitality. Your arms, your legs, and mouth are the God fund me. Act like you belong to the body of Christ. Biblical hospitality involves a donation and sacrifice of some of your time. We're giving up some of our privacy when we bring people into our homes. We've built tall fences around our yards. We have garage doors that close before anyone can see us. And most of us get our news online because we don't get the newspaper anymore. We need to be seen, not known, but we need to see people and for people to see us. We want Christ to be known. In order for God to use you, guess what? People are going to need to see you. Number 2, we sacrifice control over our belongings. Biblical hospitality will affect our stuff. Our rugs might get stained. Our toilet paper will get used up. Go to Costco. Your plates are going to get chipped. Your stuff will get used for the purpose it was made for. So number 3, biblical hospitality does not come naturally. We need to celebrate and learn from those who have made this a way of life. Because of God, they've been able to crucify enough self to put this inconvenient command above their own wants and desires. A lot of us can assume we're quite good at hospitality because we're good at inviting like-minded church friends and family over. This is part of biblical hospitality, the edification of the body of Christ. This can also lead us to deceive ourselves. We are to make disciples. Number 4, biblical hospitality is learned incrementally. We're not necessarily going to be great at it at the very beginning, and like most skills, there's a learning curve. Do not jump in and host 7 missionaries for a 3-year commitment in your studio apartment. Start small, understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and learn. Don't be discouraged. You have no idea how God's going to use those fails or those no's. Number 5, growing pains. It is beneficial to the spiritual growth for you and your family. So growing pains. You put generosity on display. You're sharing your stuff. You're displaying humility and learning to be gracious. People are going to step on your toes, and your family members will know when this has happened. You get to show how this matters, and you're sacrificing your own wishes for another person's feelings. There have been times where my husband and I have left someplace, and then we're alone, and Daniel said to me, "I'm sorry, I know that person really hurt your feelings. Don't lose your witness because you lost your focus." So number 6, remind yourself God owns everything. Again, remind yourself God owns everything. That includes your home, your furniture, your plates, your stuff. God owns it all. He has entrusted these items to you as a stewardship, not just your money, your stuff. Stewardship is not saving, it's investing. Stewardship is not an accumulation of stuff, but using the stuff that's already been given to you. God owns it all. Use the stuff up. Genuinely anticipate the second coming. Give the devil nothing more than broken down couches, chipped plates, and broken lawn chairs. Don't you dare leave an immaculate house for the devil. Use it up for the gospel. So by having a plan and a hospitality roster, you get to see differences differently. Each person in this room comes with different experiences, healthy and unhealthy relationships. People in this room have experienced divorce, the loss of a child, the death of a parent. The people in this room have lost great sums of money, while others have never even had a want. This room is a rich tapestry of experiences that God has woven together. When we collaborate with each other, we walk through the challenges together and offer perspective. We bolster each other when times get messy and hard. You get to show radical, unlikely love together. Take what is normal and make it intentional. Have a plan because you have a purpose, and encourage your hospitality partner. Let's pray. Dear loving Lord, please grant us the grace to surrender everything to you. Help us to see your way and to be willing. Help us to trust in your goodness and guidance. Help each of us to stay close to you in prayer as you reveal yourself to us more and more each day. Open our eyes to the opportunities you surround us with. Please take away anything that distracts us from you and what you would have us do. Lord, we give our words, our actions, and our thoughts to you. We love you and are so grateful for this day and for you allowing us to gather and worship you. In your name I pray, amen.